The first descriptions of the camera can be found of the camera obscura. The camera obscura is also known as a pinhole image. It is a darkened box with a convex lens in it. The image on the outside of it is projected inside onto a screen, which inverts the image on a surface opposite to the opening. The camera obscura allowed artists and amateur painters to copy the picture that came through the box. Then, in 1620, Johannes Kepler invented the first portable camera obscura. A Frenchman named Joseph Nicephore Niepce, around 1816, first invented the camera that we all know today. Many different people invented the camera, but Niepce was the first person to take the first photo on a homemade camera that survived. Due to this, Niepce became widely accepted as the inventor of the camera. The photograph was made of silver chloride covered paper. This type of paper is typical for all photographic papers. It is made up of light-sensitive emulsion that consists of silver halide salts that are suspended in a colloidal material. The paper usually has a gelatin, resin, or polyester-supported coat to it. Yet it would not be until 1829 when Louis Daguerre would get credit for developing practical photography. Then, in 1840, Alexander Woollcott invented a camera whose photographs would not fade quickly. These were the beginnings of the type of cameras in photography that we are accustomed to today. Soon after, in 1885, the first paper film was produced and manufactured by George Eastman. Later on, Eastman created the Kodak camera. The box the camera had a fixed lens and single shutter speed. Not only was the camera able to handle enough film for 100 pictures, you had to go to Kodak to get it developed. These cameras were inexpensive and were the beginning of mass-marketed photography. After World War I in 1913, Oscar Barna created the Lycia camera. It was a smaller camera that anyone could use. Many manufacturers followed suit and began to develop smaller, more sophisticated cameras that they could sell to the public. Then, in 1948, Polaroid developed the first instant picture camera. It was unconventional for the time. Polaroid would have to wait until the 1960s for this camera to become all the rage. Finally, in 1988, the first digital camera was publicly sold. In addition, in 1991, Kodak took this idea one step further and released the Kodak DCS, the first of many digital cameras. Now, cameras are at our fingertips through our smartphones.
The use of cameras in the criminal justice system has changed enormously since the bombing of the Boston Marathon, when investigators used cameras in the surrounding area to find and identify the suspects. Body cameras are becoming more commonly used by state and local police departments across the United States. They are primarily worn by officers when duties require them to be in open and direct contact with the general public. The main reasons that many police departments are integrating the use of body-worn cameras is to improve officer safety, increase evidence viability, and reduce civilian complaints. A field experiment that was conducted by the California Police Department shows that when police officers were wearing the cameras, incidents where use of force and civilian complaints were reduced by 50 to 90%. Many officers, however, are concerned that since cameras are stationary and don't offer a 360-degree view, they are afraid that the camera won't capture all aspects of an encounter. On the other hand, the camera serves as an unbiased witness to any altercation and can provide evidence to an officer's report should it come into question. As far as we know, 34 states and the District of Columbia have instituted laws that require police officers to wear body cameras when on duty. CCTV, or closed-circuit television cameras, can be seen in almost every major city. CCTV cameras are designed to pinpoint crime hotspots. In order to use CCTV footage as evidence, you must obtain a search warrant that states either a description of the area that's being watched, the footage contains names of any potential suspects, or if any prior efforts to retrieve evidence have failed or are unlikely to succeed. The theory behind the use of CCTV cameras is that if potential criminals know that they are being watched, then they won't commit any criminal acts. However, with the use of CCTV cameras, people also become less vigilant and less aware of their surroundings when in a highly populated area. At the same time, with more people being in highly populated areas at once, there is more likely more witnesses to a crime if a crime were to occur.
Photography was originally used for scientific investigations rather than art. The first photographers were chemists, engineers, and biologists. Astronomers used Daguerre's daguerreotype to capture images of the sun and solar system in the 1840s. This meant that they could take a lot of pictures and even reproduce those pictures. Cameras help scientists see what cannot be seen with the naked eye. Allied vision cameras work with microscopes, telescopes, or other scientific apparatus to document scientific observations with the highest possible details. This means that instead of sketching what scientists see in the microscope or telescope, a picture can be taken. This means that one of the key components of the scientific method, observation, can be free from human error. Technology such as the X-ray allowed Dr. Rosalind Franklin to discover the intertwined structure of DNA. This allowed him to produce the image of the double helix. Using the same X-ray technology, scientists were able to take pictures of galaxies over 4 billion light years away. Scientists and engineers are still working today to increase the use of cameras in the scientific investigation. An example of this is the fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. This imaging device measures the magnetic field of oxygen inside brain tissue to track brain activity. Another example of new technology is the atomic force microscopy. This helps scientists by reflected laser beams to map tiny, intricate surfaces of linked carbon atoms in nanomaterials. These examples are just a few ways that cameras have helped with the scientific investigation. A camera's use in scientific investigation has been tremendous and continues to grow as new technology is created.
Photography has changed the world of arts in many remarkable ways. At first, painters were very outraged when they no longer had jobs because the camera was able to get every vigilant details. It had many pros and cons. Tons of painters lost business because the cost was far less and was very accurate compared to painting and less time-consuming rather than just sitting there. However, it had many pros too for painters. It also provided artists an advantage as they no longer had to have their muses stand for long periods of time to complete the projects. They could rather just simply also finish working on it wee hours later if they obviously got preoccupied with other things that were going throughout the day. Furthermore, the camera also changed the relationship between artists and photographers, as the camera somehow gave artists a chance to be free because the camera was able to correctly document the events that occurred during their time period and allowed artists to paint whatever they wanted, and thus allowed creative expression was born and truly internalized for centuries to come. And so you see the camera made a pathway for certain artists to break through and show their abilities through the canvas. Cameras really gave artists a transparent insight because it opened a whole new world that they knew nothing about. Before the invention of the camera, artists at the time were expected to only paint portraits of people and were often frowned upon if they tried to paint other things that they truly felt was important and that they were passionate about during their time. The camera also provided a way of making it more accessible, as back in the day, as usually getting a painter to paint your portrait was typically seen as well-off or high-class manner. However, once the camera was born, it made it more portable and more normalized for common folks to access, as the method of a photo was cheaper compared to getting an artist and then having to pay for the services plus the expenses that came along with having it on an expensive material and the artist's time.
We can see that since its invention, the camera has had an ever-increasing effect on our society and our personal and social lives. Now, when people take pictures or images, it is simple. We get out our phones and snap a picture, but as mentioned in the previous sections, it wasn't always this easy. After cameras were invented, the popularity of photography slowly rose. Family portraits began gaining favor with the public. Although pictures took a long amount of time to take, many families wanted to keep an image of their loved ones that lasted even until today. From these, we can take a peek into the decades past and reminisce over saved memories or wonder at long past ancestors or events. With innovations in cameras, the ways we receive news changed as well. Pieces of paper filled with words changed to give the reader something to view as well as read. From pictures of skyscrapers built in New York to those of Germany blitzing through France, we have been made to more intimately understand information in ways that were never possible before cameras. More recently, news has evolved on the television screen, which allows people to get more information and see what is going on both in our neighborhoods and in the world, thus bringing us together in ways we never thought imaginable. Another deeply effective innovation of the camera has been the video camera. Invented in the early 1900s, the video camera sparked the world of cinematography. This began with silent films, eventually sound was added, and later color in the late 1940s. Because of this booming industry, people were captured by the brilliant scenes, both invented and real as they are today. Many of us still travel to the movie theaters for feature films with family and friends, or watch documentaries to gain more information over an unlimited number of subjects. Either way, cameras cause us to weep, cause us to laugh, to cry, and to hug ourselves from fear. Finally, the most recent innovation, in part brought about by cameras, has been social media. At our fingertips, we take selfies, we share what food we are eating in the moment, we share our most intimate moments with each other in a way that could hardly have been imagined even 20 years ago. Truly, cameras have changed our societies on almost every single level.